Hello, this is McD the Beast, and this is McD Sports 4 coming to you today with my college football top 25 for week 10 of the college football season here in 2022. Before I continue, don't forget to hit the thumbs up. Please subscribe to the channel. Greatly appreciate if you do that. As I said yesterday, I my Windows updated and kind of got rid of everything. So basically, it's kind of a new thing here with Windows, so I'm getting used to it. Um, so that's why the it looks a little bit different. You see the bar below with the time and all of that. But anyways, let's get into it. This past week in college football, I said there was going to be a lot of close games. I was wrong. There was actually a lot of blowouts. Um, so let's get into it. 25 through one, and the teams that just missed. So number 25 is Liberty. Liberty? They moved down one spot. They were on the bye week. They moved down one spot, and I'll explain why later on why some of these teams moved down one spot. A lot 20 through 25 basically were all on byes, but there was one team that I had put into the top 25 after this past week. So one team dropped out, so that's why Liberty moved down one. Same thing with Maryland. They moved down one spot. They were on the bye week, 6-2. They get Wisconsin coming up on the road. That's going to be an interesting game. So we'll see what happens there. Number 23, Wake Forest. I moved them down 9 spots. What an embarrassing third quarter from Wake Forest. I guess eventually was going to bust open the defense. Because I said this defense wasn't that good. You look at Wake Forest. I mean, that was a really disappointing loss against the Louisville team. I mean, I get that they're 5-3. But I mean, Louisville does have some bad losses on their resume. So, and I get they're on a little 3-game winning streak, Louisville. But I just thought it was a bad loss. It was 14-13 Wake Forest at halftime. So I was like, okay, hopefully Wake Forest maybe gets it going a little bit in the second half and pulls away someone gets a victory here. But no, that is exactly what not have that did not have at all in the third quarter. I think the guy outscored what 35-0 Wake Forest in the third quarter. So I moved them down 9 spots. They're still only a 2-loss team with a bad loss and an overtime loss to Clemson. But number 23 Wake Forest moved down 9 spots. Number 22 Oregon State had bye week, didn't move them at all. Still number 22. 21 Tulane had a bye week, didn't move them at all, even though a win on the resume looks really impressive right now, and they only have one loss. Tulane, number 21. Number 20, NC State. They beat Virginia Tech on the road 22-21. They got out there with a win, and sometimes that's all that you gotta do. Sometimes, especially during these weeknight games. And I don't like. In my opinion, I only think the group of five should be playing these weeknight games. It should really only be on Fridays. They should be playing, with the exception of week one. Week one, I'm okay with the Power Five playing these weeknight games. But NC State they got out. They got out of Lane Stadium with a win, 22-21. It's a good win for them. They still only have 2 losses. I kept them at number 20. Number 20, NC State. Number 19, Syracuse. I moved them down 3 spots. I'm just gonna be honest with you. I think Notre Dame won that game based off of talent alone. I think Notre Dame just out talented Syracuse. The final score was 41-24. I thought Syracuse would win this game. But I was wrong. I'll admit. I moved Syracuse down 3 spots. I mean, kind of a bit of an ugly loss against Notre Dame. Notre Dame is still a 5-3 team. They do have some bad losses on that resume. Notre Dame does, but you look at Syracuse, still only a 2-loss team. The only other loss was a 6-point loss on the road to Clemson I actually thought outplayed Clemson in that game. So I still think they're a top 25 team, Syracuse. I only moved them down 3 spots. Number 19, Syracuse. Number 18, Penn State. Yeah, I know they lost. I didn't move them any. I think Penn State is properly rated here at number 18. Their 2 losses was against Michigan, where they basically had a bad second half. And they basically did what I thought they were going to do against Ohio State, just a little bit more high scoring than what I predicted. I believe I said 34-20 Ohio State. I think the final was 44-31, so a little more high scoring. And I tend to do that when I pick these big games. They tend to be a little more high scoring than what I think they're going to be. So just an interesting note on myself there. But yeah, I mean, Penn State did what I thought they would do. I thought they'll cover I know some places it was 15.5, some places I think we picked at 14.5. They covered, but at the end of the day, the better team won. Um, Sean Clifford played a horrible game in my opinion. 4 turnovers. That's unacceptable for him. But you look at Penn State. They do get the number 24 team in this poll later on in the season. And Maryland, I forget. They still, I believe, get someone else on that schedule if I'm not mistaken. But Penn State still looks a little bit ahead of schedule. I really think they're a 2023 team. I really do. I'm going to be high on them next season. But they did exactly what I thought they were going to do. So they stay at the same spot. Number 18, Penn State. Number 17, Oklahoma State. What the hell happened in that game? I mean, talk about a no-show from start to end. Getting shut out 48 nothing like that. I dropped them 8 spots. I mean, I had Oklahoma State going into this game as the favorite to win the Big 12 still, even though TCU was ahead of them. Now I can't say that. So we'll see what happens with Oklahoma State. I think they bounce back, but I don't know what the hell that was. I mean, they had me look really dumb. They had me look really, really dumb. Oklahoma State did this past week. So dropped them 8 spots to number 17. Number 16, Kansas State. This is the team I had to add. Kansas State to me was like a top 28 team coming into this week. I thought they were right there, a fringe top 25 team. They really impressed me. 48 nothing. They played the backup quarterback and did that as well. Adrian Martinez was out. I mean, you look at Kansas State, 2 losses, only one loss in the Big 12 to TCU. When table win out, they could find themselves in the Big 12 championship game, getting another shot at TCU again. The only other loss is actually to number 21 in this poll, Tulane. And you might sit there and be like, well, Kansas State has 2 losses and Tulane only has 1 loss. I think Kansas State just beats Tulane more likely or not. Kansas State has more impressive wins. I know Tulane, their only losses to Southern Miss, an average Southern Miss team, but I was really impressed with Kansas State. So go ahead, give me Kansas State at number 16. Now the top 15. Number 15, North Carolina. You guys beat Pitt 41-24. Um, listen, in my opinion, one-loss team, you gotta start respecting it. You really gotta start respecting it. I moved North Carolina up 4 spots. Still not absolutely sold on them. I believe, but it looks like they are the team to come out of the Coastal Division there in the ACC to probably face Clemson in the ACC championship game. So we'll see what happens there. But North Carolina, they are getting the job done. So outside of a bad loss to Notre Dame, they are getting the job done. Number 15, North Carolina, moving them up 4 spots. Number 14, LSU. They were on the bye week, LSU. I moved them up 1 spot. Their win over Ole Miss looks a little bit better now, since Ole Miss got a victory. More on that in a second. But LSU, outside of 2 losses, one to a team in the top 5, and the other one to a Florida State team that I think is starting to get a little bit underrated again. Um, Number 14, LSU, pretty good this season. Pretty good. They had that signature win this year, but they get Alabama this week. We'll see what happens in that one. That's gonna be a huge game. It is in Baton Rouge, night game, so that should be fun. But number 14, LSU. Number 13, Utah didn't move them at all. They went to Pullman and beat Wazoo 21-17. And once again, with these weeknight games, if you're the road team that's ranked, all I need you to, the only expectation I'm really happy you guys is just go in and get the victory. And that's what Utah did. It was an ugly game, yes, but Utah got the job done. They got the victory. I didn't move them any. But I was happy to see that Utah got the win. So number 13, Utah. Number 12, UCLA. Nice bounce back win against Stanford. I know it's Stanford, but you felt like UCLA needed that. I didn't move UCLA any, but it was a nice win for UCLA, and they can still run the table. I mean, they get USC at the end of the year, but they had that win against Utah. If they could just win out, they get another crack at Oregon at the end in the Pac-12 championship game. So we'll see what happens there. But number 12 UCLA, number 11 USC. I did move USC down 1 spot, and the reason why is I was a bit more impressed with the team that was number 11 in the past week's poll. You look at USC. They didn't cover against Arizona, an Arizona team I don't think is that good. Um, And I get that Arizona has an offense, but at the same time, I need USC to score to blow out Arizona there if you want to be taken seriously. But they still got the win. But I moved USC down one spot. Only the one loss to Utah, so we'll see what happens there. But if maybe those two teams link up back in the Pac-12 championship game, because remember Utah's only one loss in the Pac-12 is to UCLA, so we'll see what happens. But USC number 11. They could still very well run the table. They get UCLA at the end of the year. That's probably going to, besides Michigan, Ohio State, that's probably going to be your big game on rivalry weekend. Number 10, Illinois. Guys, we gotta start respecting Illinois. A lot of people had Illinois going ahead. This was kind of the trendy upset pick. One of the two trendy upset picks that didn't turn out that we did not pick here on McD Sports 4. But Illinois, there was, I believe, 7.5 point favorites going into the game against Nebraska, and they went in there and absolutely blitzed them 26-9. And listen, Illinois looks like the best team in the Big Ten West. You look at their schedule, Purdue's going to be a game that I think is going to be at the worst competitive. I think, and then you look at they do get Michigan. That's probably going to be a loss. I believe that game's on the road for Illinois, if I'm not mistaken. But you gotta start taking Illinois seriously. I mean, you cannot sit there and be like, "Oh, it's a feel-good story." No, these guys are for real. The Illinois, and do they probably go into the Big 12? Not the Big 12, the Big 10 championship game and lose? Yes, to Ohio State or Michigan, whoever it is. Yes, but I mean, they are a team. They are good at what they do and they're good at what they do. And I'm telling you right now, you gotta take them seriously. So Illinois, I think I put them in my top 10, number 10. I mean, the only one loss that I get is it's to not so good of an Indiana team. They kind of got hosed in that game. So number 10, Illinois. Number 9, Ole Miss. Give Ole Miss credit. They went into a hostile environment, came out with the victory against a Texas A&M team that I actually picked the upset, and I said Ole Miss was going to lose. They didn't. Ole Miss got out there for a win. They covered as well. They were only a 2 point favorite on the road. So I was impressed with Ole Miss with that. I thought that was an impressive win for them. They still get Alabama on the schedule. Mississippi State's on the schedule too. So we'll see what happens in those two games. But Ole Miss, give them credit. They went on the road and beat A&M, a team that I thought was going to pull off the upset, but they didn't. So I was pretty impressed with that. So Ole Miss, number 9, moved them up 2 spots. Number 8, Oregon, kept them the same. I thought Oregon was actually going to lose. They didn't. They actually won and covered against Cal. So one pick there in the upset category for me. And by the way, my picks were not that good this past week for college football. This was kind of a weird week, a bunch of close spreads that didn't go my way. But Oregon, I mean, outside that week 1 game against Georgia, that must have been an anomaly or something. I mean, you look at Oregon, they're blowing out everybody. I mean, they're probably going to cakewalk to the Pac-12 championship game, probably get UCLA or USC, and we'll see what happens. I will prefer if they get USC, just because so they have a different opponent on that schedule. But you look at Oregon, they're at worst a top 10 team. I mean, I know the 49-3 loss is like what happened in that game against Georgia, but Oregon, number 8. Number 7, Alabama. They had a bye week. I didn't move them at all. They get LSU next week. We'll see what happens in that one. Alabama, in my opinion, probably has to win the SEC championship game to get into the college football playoff. And even then, that might not be enough to be on. Well, it will be if they win the SEC. But Alabama, not completely sold on them. Just not completely sold on them. We'll see what happens. But they have a big game against LSU on the road this upcoming week. Number 6, Clemson. You look at Clemson. I'm just not sold on Clemson. I'm just not. I know they had a bye week, but they get Notre Dame next week. That's on the road. That's gonna be a tough game for Clemson, in my opinion. But I'm just not sold on them offensively. I think this team isn't good enough to win a championship, a college football championship. They're good enough to win the ACC, and if they go undefeated and win the ACC, and get into the college football playoffs, I think they're just gonna get blown out in the first round. I really do. I don't think they're one of the best 4 teams in the country. They're number 6 in my pool. I think that's where they should be rated. So number 6, Clemson. Now the top 5. There is a little bit of movement in my top 5. Not with number 5 though. TCU. Um, TCU, in my opinion, another game. A lot of people thought that they were going to get upset by West Virginia, kind of a similar spread, 7 point underdogs for West Virginia there. TCU going on the road as 7 point favorites. Nope, TCU took care of business and won that game 41-31. And I didn't see this upset coming, to be honest with you. Uh, and I was right about that. We didn't pick the game, but I was pretty confident that TCU was going to beat West Virginia. West Virginia might be the worst team in the Big 12, them and Iowa State. So, and those 2 teams I still think are not bad teams. But no, TCU impressive win. They get Texas Tech next week on Big Noon Kickoff. So Texas Tech, a team that's been kind of up and down. It is in Fort Worth. I think TCU probably wins that game. But TCU should be the favorite to win the Big 12 right now, especially after what we saw from Oklahoma State. I know Kansas State's going to be spoken about. We'll see about that. I still think Kansas State's probably going to lose another game somewhere. But TCU absolutely should be the favorites in the Big 12 at this time. Now the top 4. Number 4, Michigan. Yeah, I moved Michigan down 1 spot. Listen, I know they beat Michigan State 29-7. I get that. But their signature win is Penn State. Penn State lost the second game against Ohio State. Now, I did say that game went exactly as I thought, just a little more high scoring than what I thought, and that's true. But it's 3 resumes ahead of Michigan are just better, in my opinion, or very similar. I get that Michigan also has that win against Maryland, which is helping them out, but I don't know if Michigan could beat some of these teams ahead of them. So that's why I have Michigan number 4. Number 3, Ohio State. I moved Ohio State down 2 spots, but despite winning, there are problems with Ohio State. I think. I thought Penn State did show some cracks for in the. Let me reword that. I do think Penn State did show some cracks in Ohio State. They still had the win against Penn State. The Notre Dame win. They still have that. So I mean, Ohio State and Michigan are basically even in my opinion. They're gonna play at the end of the year, so it's gonna play itself out. But Michigan, they still get Illinois on the schedule. Ohio State still gets Maryland on the schedule. So we'll see what happens. But Ohio State number 3, Michigan number 4. Now the top 2. Number 2, Tennessee. Um, I moved Tennessee up 2 spots after that win against Kentucky, and here's why. Um, that was very impressive. And listen, some people were saying, "Oh, Tennessee's gonna be in a dogfight, but they'll win at the end." That was kind of the consensus. You look at my picks. I actually thought Tennessee would cover, but I kind of was leaning towards the same way. Probably close, but Tennessee pulls away late. I think I had the score 41-26. Well, I was right about how many points Tennessee was scoring in this game. They scored 44. I was wrong by 20 points on how many points Kentucky was scoring that game. It was 6. Tennessee won that game 44-6. And let me tell you something. I said Kentucky was overrated. I was right about that. I think last night people were like, "Oh, the stage was too big for Kentucky." No, it wasn't. Kentucky's not a good team. Will Levis is overrated. But nevertheless, you look at Tennessee. They have the win against Alabama. They have the win against LSU. They're blowing out everybody. I mean, to be honest, the only blemish on the schedule might be the Pitt game. So we'll see what happens with Tennessee. They get number 1 next week in Georgia. And the reason why I moved Georgia up number 1 is because that win against Oregon might be the most dominant win on a resume. That's a very good win that I've seen in a while. And to Georgia's credit, Missouri beating South Carolina helped that resume a little bit, in my opinion. So and a game that I was actually a bit surprised by. A lot of people were high on Missouri. I went the other way saying, "Oh, South Carolina will win. It's at home. It's fun. It's in Williams-Brice." I was wrong about that. But 1 and 2 face each other next week. I think Tennessee's like a touchdown underdog. I had to think about that game and see who I think's gonna win that game. But of course we're gonna come out with picks later on this week, obviously for college football. But that's gonna be a huge game. It's on CBS at 3:30. College game day should be there as far as I'm concerned. If they're not there, if they choose the I believe the ABC game is another big game. It's the LSU Alabama game. If they're at the LSU Alabama game, that's embarrassing. If that's college game day. And but anyways, I was gonna say something else, but I didn't want to offend anybody. But you look at you look at Georgia. I mean, I think you gotta put them number one just off that win against Oregon. And I know the struggle win against Missouri. I know the struggle win against Kent State, but they'll win. So number one, Georgia. So that's the top 25. Teams that dropped out, number 25, Texas. If this was a top 26, Texas would be number 26. I just had to pick Kansas State in there. There was no way that I could have left Kansas State out of that pool, out of the pool this week. So that's what it came down to with that. So that's why Texas got dropped out. But if it was a top 26, Texas would be number 26. Teams I considered, Washington. Washington 6-2. I just don't like their resume. I know Arizona State being Colorado. Another game I picked in the upset category. I had Colorado winning that I was wrong about. But the Colorado did cover, so thank you, Colorado. I just don't like that loss. I know Arizona State won, as I said, against Colorado. It helps the resume out a little bit, but I just don't like it. But I do think that they are a top at probably number 27. I think you gotta put them at the because at consensus number 27 based on the record. Baylor, I still think Baylor is probably the second best 3-loss team at best. I mean at worst. Them in Texas. I can see Baylor winning the table and going 9-3 to end the season. So keep an eye on Baylor. Coastal Carolina, they only have one loss in that deep Sun Belt. They beat Marshall. That's a good win. So give them a shout out. Florida State, give them a shout out as well. They beat Georgia Tech, I know, but they do have they did beat number 14 in this poll, and I am still I said that was kind of my dark horse team coming into the season, Florida State. So that's why it's a team I considered. And those are really the only teams I really truly consider. I did want to give a team a shout out. I know they're featuring game day, so they kind of already got a shout out. But Jackson State, if you look at their point spread, they're 8-0 and they only gave up 30 points so far this season. They scored like 220 or something like that. They look like the best team in FCS. So I just wanted to give them a shout out. Jackson State, Deion Sanders. He's going to be considered for some Power 5 jobs, so keep an eye out for that. But those are I was about to say those are my picks. This is my top 25. I know the first college football playoff pool comes out Tuesday. A lot of people think Tennessee is going to be number one. We'll see. I still think that Georgia win with Oregon is still going to weigh heavy. I know Tennessee beat Bama, but um, I might have to on neutral field. I might pick Oregon over Alabama. I don't know. But anyways, thanks for watching the video. Hit the thumbs up. Please subscribe to the channel. Greatly appreciate you do that. McD the Beast signing off.